Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they're not safe to be around my sister's kids? I, 25F, have two older siblings. My brother Connor, 34M, is married with 4 kids 8 and under, and my sister Amy, 31F, has 2 kids aged 7 and 5. Amy's oldest was diagnosed with ASD 3 years ago and has trouble eating. She hates most foods and won't even try most things. She's very strict with what she'll eat. This has been a source of stress and concern for Amy and her husband. Her youngest has no official diagnosis, but is incredibly picky and also won't eat lots of stuff. My parents are very big believers in they won't starve themselves, and if you give them nothing else, they will eat what's on their plate. This doesn't work for either of Amy's kids. They will starve themselves and they won't try something new most of the time, or they won't try something again if they didn't like it on the first try. Amy's oldest was hospitalized more than once for refusal to eat, and the youngest was once. Amy and her husband are working with feeding therapists for both kids and an OT for their oldest. My parents complain about the very bland, very lacking in vegetables and fruits diet that both kids have. They have suggested getting the kids involved so they'll eat it more willingly, but I have been there when Amy and her husband involve the kids in meal prep. It doesn't make them more willing to try it. I babysit sometimes, and I have Amy's kids over some weekends for a break for Amy and her husband, and so the kids can have some fun away from their parents and away from food stresses. My parents are annoyed that I have the kids, but they never get a weekend with them. Amy and her husband fear the kids being offered only food our parents deem appropriate and going the entire weekend eating nothing. My parents would do this too. They still believe it wasn't tried enough. My parents told me I should talk to Amy and convince her to let them have the kids some weekends. I said no. I told them they're not safe to be around the kids when they would refuse them food they will eat. They told me they raised 3 kids and were all fine, and how dare I accuse them of being like that? So, am I the a-hole here?
Here are the top comments, plus Opie's reply.
You're absolutely not the a-hole. Your parents' outdated approach to food might work for neurotypical kids, but it's downright harmful for kids with sensory issues or feeding challenges. The fact that your sister's child was hospitalized over this proves how serious it is. You're advocating for the kids' well-being, and that's exactly what a good aunt does. Maybe suggest they talk to the feeding therapists themselves if they're open to learning. If not, you're doing the right thing keeping them out of harm's way.
Not the a-hole. All of this is F up on several levels, but the bottom line is those kids aren't safe in your parents' care.
OP replied,
It's not ideal. That's why Amy and her husband are doing all they can to help their kids.
Chiming in just to say that level of picky eating has an actual diagnosis and name now, avoidance/restrictive food intake disorder, and it has a huge overlap with ASD folks as well. Also not the a-hole, parents are way out of line.